This is the biggest tomahawk steak ever. It's packed full with flavor, it's juicy, and it's super tender. And here is how you make it.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
If you like steaks, then you're gonna love this. Because this is a tomahawk steak with the bone attached to it. And not only the bone, also all the meat that comes with the bone. So this is the full belly section with the beef ribs still connected to the tomahawk steak. This thing is an absolute monster. And we're gonna cook it on the flat top griddle. You might wonder, how did you get one of these? Well, my neighbor had a black Angus bull and asked me if I wanted to eat it. And I said sure. I took it to my butcher in Montevela and I asked him to cut it up for me, dry age it, and then together we cut it up into pieces. And I could point out exactly what I wanted out of it. And this is a tomahawk steak with the bones and the belly attached. So basically this is a whole pack of tomahawk and it weighs an insane amount. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is season this a little bit with salt. I'm going to grind on some Himalayan pink salt and I'm not going to be shy with it. This is a thick piece of meat and it's going to need lots and lots of salt. Especially since when you're cooking it, most of the salt is going to drop off again. Pat it on so it stays on to the meat. We'll flip. Do the same on the other side. Make sure you get all sides, including the fat cap. Steak is big and it's got a mind of its own. And if it doesn't want to stand up straight, there's a trick to it. I'm just going to put some salt on the tabletop like that. And then I'm going to put the steak on the salt because there's more than one way that leads to Rome. All right, there we go. Now that we got this seasoned up, we're going to prepare the grill. That's going to give the steak a little bit of time to soak up the salt and have the osmosis effect take place. It's going to make the steak taste even better. The grill that I'm going to use is the Napoleon Prestige. And there's a good reason for that, because this steak is so big that it doesn't fit on any of my charcoal grills. First thing to do is remove the grill grates. Second thing is to put in the stainless steel plancha, aka flat top griddle. And now we turn that thing into a flat top griddle. It's going to give us the best performance on a giant steak like this. The new Prestige is digital, so I'm going to switch it on. It's going to tell me the temperature and the amount of gas that I have in my gas bottle. I'm going to open the lid, turn it on, and set it to the lowest position on all the burners. That's going to slowly warm up the flat top griddle. And we're going to take the steak and put it on straight away on the cold grill. Because basically, I need this to warm up together with the grill. Because if I go too fast, I'm going to have a sear on the outside, but it's not going to be fully cooked. So there it goes, a giant tomahawk steak on the flat top griddle. The steak is now starting to warm up and I'm going to stick in a thermometer. This grill comes with its own thermometers. So I'm going to take one of them and pop it in. Of course, I'm going to stick it into the thickest part of the steak. There we go. I'm going to close the lid and I can now actually see the temperature on my display, so I know what the steak is doing. It's already up to 16 degrees Celsius, which is almost up to room temperature, but we're going to wait for it to come up even further before we sear it off. While we wait a little bit, you can play around with the app and actually set the temperatures that you like. For instance, I've got my steak set to 54 degrees Celsius. You can set an alarm for the barbecue. One thing that I noticed is that the steak actually went up a degree in core temperature, which means it's getting momentum, it's starting to warm up, and that is when I'm going to do my first flip. This is how we're going to get the most even heat distribution. The steak is warming up. We're at a temperature of, let me check, 35 degrees Celsius. That's some serious warming up. So I went into the garden and I picked some fresh herbs. I got some rosemary, I got some thyme, I got parsley, I got chives. So I got basically all the seasoning that you can find in like a good compound or good herb butter. Of course, a pack of butter. And what we're going to do is first, we're going to raise up the heat a little bit. So let's set this aside and we're going to raise up the temperature to a medium. That's going to make the flat top grill a little hotter and it's going to melt the fat that sits on the steak while building up a crust, of course, on the outside of our beautiful steak. I'm going to chop these up. That is nice and fine. Now this is going to go onto the steak as a whole. But first, let's check it out. The temperature's coming up pretty quick, so we gotta stay close to the steak. Let's do another flip. There we go. I can already see a little bit of crust building up here. That is starting to look good. And that's also a signal for me that the beef fat's melting and we probably should start adding the butter. It's a big steak, so it requires a whole stick of butter, 250 grams. Move it around a little bit on the steak, on the flat top griddle, let it get everywhere. Now it's time to add the rosemary and the thyme. And the reason that I add them first is because they hold a lot of natural ethereal oils, and it's pretty strong, and it therefore also slowly releases the flavor, where the chives and parsley release their flavor a lot faster. Onto the butter, work it in a little bit, onto the steak, keep it close. Let's check the temperature, 39 degrees. As you can see, it's going quick. I'm gonna raise up the temperature even further. As a matter of fact, we're putting everything on full throttle. I'm gonna give it all the gas it has. We're starting to get a crust on the steak. That is really looking good. A little bit of butter fire underneath the flat top griddle. Be careful with that, because if you let it get out of hand, you're gonna get a big grease fire. Always try and prevent that. Closer and closer we get to the temperature that we're aiming for. I'm aiming for 54 degrees Celsius core temperature. So it's time to do another flip. Oh, the fat is starting to melt. Yeah, baby. Look at that. That is starting to look really, really impressive. So we're getting into the final stretch. I'm going to add the rest of the fresh herbs. Just sprinkle it on. First I'm going to put it on the steak, and then it will transport itself throughout the butter. To give the seasoning a little bit more power and to season the butter too, I'm going to add some PITMASTERX Texas barbecue seasoning. Just going to sprinkle that on. Perfect. Temperatures are rising and rising, and it's time to do another flip. And you see that how great it is that you have a thermometer in while you're actually searing a steak. A little bit more seasoning on this side. There we go. This is going to be so tasty. Now, there's another problem that we haven't talked about with a steak like this, and that is the cutting board. There is not a cutting board that I own that is that size. So I'm just going to use the tabletop as a cutting board. Marinating in the butter and the seasoning. Oh yeah, getting it all in. Get the thermometer out and the steak on the cutting board. Oh, look at this thing. This is complete madness. Isn't this just the coolest steak you've ever seen? All right, turn the burners off, of course. Close the lid. That way you're always safe. Let's get it off the bone. There we go. That is looking mighty tasty. The first thing that I want is to take a look inside this steak. And I'm gonna go in for the cap. And we're gonna see what's going on there. Are you ready for this? There we go. Of course, it's a challenge cooking a big steak like that, but if you have results like this, then you can always be satisfied. Let's see how the ribeye of this bull actually tastes. Wow, that flavor is spot on. Of course, I'm also gonna try the rib cap. One of my favorite pieces. This is so delicious. She's kind of like turned camera shy. Eva, kom eens.
You're on the show.
You're on the show. Come on. Come on.
What is she?
Eva, there. Steak. Woohoo. Yeah, I try to capture on camera, but it's kind of hard. She's kind of like the lazy Pyrenees. All right, now for us to try together for the first time is going to be the other end.
That's so cool.
Does it make sense to take a slice out of the belly, and is it actually worth grilling up like this?
Show-wise, I think.
Show-wise, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But now let's figure out a little bit of juice here. There we go. Definitely a little bit tougher, but very, very, very tasty.
That's nice. I love that the fat is still on there.
That's good,
crispy,
right?
and it gives so much taste.
And the end here, closer to the ribeye, is probably going to be a little more tender.
That's a cute cube.
More tender, right?
The fat gets softer too, and gets more flavor from the herbs.
There's so many pieces of this steak
Yeah.
that there's just no way
So
to
funny.
not try it all. The side of the bone. Cheers.
Oh yeah, that's really good. That's so funny. That's cool.
I really enjoyed this piece,
Yeah.
the side. It's crispy, it is a little tougher than the eye and a little tougher than the rib cap, but flavor-wise it's super, super strong.
It soaked up all the flavors of the rest of the beef.
It's insane. I like it. So, is it worth it?
I think so, yeah. Especially if you want to do like a big show thing.
Big show thing.
Yeah.
Have a lot of people over, eat the steak.
Yeah, you can serve up like one for each person like that on the table. Like, yeah. I think it will fall.
With Eva, you and me,
We're gonna finish this.
we're gonna finish this steak. So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Of course, I'll be sharpening that knife later on.
Cheers. Did you have a dull knife?
Slice it on the table. It's gonna be dull.